were non-trivial, so it had a lot of work. It won't be automatic like it was before. So now I actually have to commit the changes made. And you see it gives you the message itself, merge bench to the 2, and a list of the conflicts you resolved. It's just a safeguard, so if you mess up the merge, you can just do, I'll show you. And when you don't have a message, which is -m, and open a text editor, you can type in your message, save the file, and that is used as a commit message. You don't have to do that, you just do it for convenience. I think it's explained on the GitHub help how to set up. So this is something I recommend doing because it's easier, but the first, I think, half year I used Git just without it. Looks fine too.
Sorry.
Okay, now I made the mistake with my merge. I just don't know how to conflict the merge conflicts, and has to be something else to do. How do I get back to my normal working copy? Git merge abort, and now I'm back to my old self. And if I try to commit something, it says doesn't work. Nothing to commit. So far so good?
I'm sorry, why did merge abort? Is that because part of the merge had happened, but the conflict had not?
Once you use git merge, which I did up here,
Yeah.
and it doesn't go all the way through with merging the branches, and you still have staged but uncommitted files. You can't continue working on your repository just as you would. You have to abort the merge. If it's trivial, it can just always by itself. You can just git merge and go all the way through. If it doesn't, you can always abort by passing this.
And what symptom do you see if you don't abort the merge? It doesn't let you do something.
Whenever you try to commit something, although if you have resolved a conflict, like I just did, it will just include those changes in the next merge and the next commit. If you actually don't resolve the conflicts, it just won't let you commit. To tell you you can't commit without resolving all conflicts. Because if you could commit it, it would entirely screw up the repository. Okay. Now, since I got my neat little platform app that doesn't actually work, I will now bring it onto GitHub. How do I bring things onto GitHub? So, I hope you got an account if you want to follow along. I say new repository. I got a bunch of stuff already, but let's call mine day to do. This is my Rouven Day New York project, and it's open. It's a public repository. I just created, and it actually tells you what you have to do to get things onto Git. GitHub is really helpful in giving you advice. It has an awesome help, so I recommend using it. Now, since we already went through all these steps and created our Git repository and added a README file, we're just going to use this one, those instructions. The first command we have to use is git remote add. What are remotes? Remotes are references to other Git repositories. It's completely decentralized, so your repository is complete with all the information it needs. But you really want to share your code with other people. You want to work on that with other people. And so you have to be able to push it to another place. And the easy way to do it is using remotes. So let's just use remote on our repository. And nothing, we have none. That's because we created our repository locally. So now let's just use what we got here. And pass this in. Use git remote add, so you want to add a new remote. Origin is the name of the new remote. And this is the rule from GitHub, from the repository. Yes?
Do you know what connection protocols it uses?
You get a choice. You can GitHub. You can use the custom Git protocol, SSH. Git has its own protocol. You can use that one. You can use SSH, and you can use just normal HTTPS.
And what what ports does its own protocol use? Do you know? Is that
What do you
using
mean?
port 80? Is it using the, no, if you're setting up Git on a server,
Yes.
and people need to be able to access it, you know, would,
A
can it
port?
just use the normal web server ports?
No. That's why you would use an HTTPS then. Like if you have problems with your firewall and you still want to access a Git repository, you should go through HTTPS because any proxy that's true. On GitHub, if you want to actually push changes upstream, you have to use the SSH connection because it's the one they support, it's the most secure connection. So that's their preferences. So let's add this one. And I go in my remote again. And there it is, origin. It's in the instructions, what I was supposed to do next. Git push -u origin master. -u means it's a new repository on the remote, so you want to push, it's the initial push. In the future you don't have to do that. Origin is my local, is my remote thread, and master is the branch we want to push. We could also push 2 to 2 instead of master. It's also, that's our choice. Our choice. Takes a second, and there we go. Oh, that looks good. Here we go. So now we got JShould-do on GitHub, and I can look at my commits. Here we see what has happened. But notice only one branch moved. We got 2 branches in our local repository, but there's only one here. If I want to push more branches, I have to do so explicitly. So I can say now git push origin 2 to 2. And there it is. It also tells you whether the branch is actually ahead or behind your master branch. So here you can see it's 1 behind, 1 ahead. So there's 1 commit in 2 to 2 that isn't in master, and 1 commit in master that isn't in 2 to 2. That's because we aborted our merge a second ago. So I don't really like 2 to 2, so I want to remove it again from the server. It's also done using git push, and it's git push origin or remote column 2 to 2, and that's the way again. So those are the most essential commands to be able to use GitHub. Now,
And where do you look at the syntax when you need it? Like,
oh,
the magic of a colon, where would you find it?
You find all the commands if you say git, and one of them is git help, which has the same output. But the amazing thing is, if you say git help push, you get a really nice, really long help page describing the command. You can either do that or just Google Stack Overflow or something. Usually has really nice brief instructions. But you want to look up some obscure detail or just command line options or don't have an internet connection, git help is your friend. So let's see what else have I got.
Well, let's say you wanted to work on a piece of the Joomla CMS.
I'll come to that later.
Okay.
First of all, one thing software developers usually want to do is tag their releases. So you want to have a reference point, this is on 1.0, this is on 1.1, and so on. So to do so, I think it's a git tag 1.0. And if I now just list the tags, I have 1.0. Now, I usually want to annotate the tag. That means I say git tag -a and my first release. I have to use 1.1 now because 1.0 is already used. I can only have 1 tag per name. Annotation, the -a is the same as the commit message basically. It's just an explanation you can add. You don't have to later on know what you actually done, why you've done it.
And then what's the advantage of a tag? Is that just like putting a bookmark there that you can come back to
It's
at
the
some
same as
point?
the text we use in SVN, it's just a reference point, so you don't have to remember that commit was my 1.0 release.
Mhm.
It's just a reference to, yeah, where I want to be. Now, I couldn't use 1.1 because I already tagged this one. And so I would have to use a commit number, which I want to tag, so I I don't have to tag the most current revision, I can tag an older one too. So I can just go back and say this one was my 1.1. Okay, now I screwed up the order of the commands. That was smart. Okay. Get tag. No. Okay, now I'm kind of lost. I'm sorry. Okay, in theory this works. I have no idea why it doesn't right now. But for some reason, it thinks 1.1 should be a reference to another repro or a branch, which it isn't. Okay, wait a minute. Now, if I push again to GitHub, which I assume most of you are going to be using, because it's just cool hip stuff right now, it says like everything up to date. And if I look at it, I still don't have any tags here. To get the tags, I have to do git push tags explicitly. And only this will get my tags upstream. There I am. The nice thing about GitHub, you can automatically download it as a zip file or attach that when you push a tag. So far, so good? Obviously, you can also remove and rename remotes. It's the same way you will do it with branches. Now, the Joomla CMS, or actually I'm going to use the Joomla platform because the Joomla CMS doesn't really use GitHub for most of its work. It's just there. Well, it's supported as Truth, but the whole process still goes through a tracker, while the Joomla platform actually uses GitHub in the way it's supposed to be used, so it's a better example. Now, I'm on the Joomla platform. I already forked it, but you can just fork it with a click of the button, which we right here by clicking now. So this is my little fork of the Joomla platform. Now, to work on it, I have to clone the entire repository down to my computer. So I'll use this URL. I'm going to copy and paste it. Go back to
When do you fork and when do you branch?
You fork a repository you don't own. You can only branch on repositories you already have on your computer. I can't branch a repository I don't have any write access to. So, or actually I could just download it and make a branch on my computer, but I couldn't put it back to GitHub. Forking is the same as cloning on GitHub. So now I'm basically going to fork it again onto my computer. So I'm going to fork by fork, which is called cloning in Git speak. So I'm saying git clone and use the address I just got. Which takes a second because the platform isn't that small. Okay. So now I got a new folder, Joomla platform. And if I look at it, I have the entire revision history all the way back, which I'm not going because it will take forever, on my computer. And if I look at my folder, I got all the files here I can work on, I can make changes, and I can commit them as we used before. And then I probably have to want to get them back to GitHub and yeah, actually have to use it. So first let's look at the remotes, because we need a remote to push changes back to GitHub. Now, if you're cloning, Git is smart enough to know you probably want to push changes back to wherever you have cloned. So the origin remote is already there. I don't have to add it myself. So now I'm just going to make a nonsense change. And I will commit that change.
Missed it.
Yeah, I don't have to stage it because I'm using the minus
The
-8.
T of commit.
What's that?
You misspelled it.
Got it.
Oh, thanks.
And you don't have to stage because why?
I would have to, but because I'm using the -A,
Oh, because
all
you're doing
files
all.
are just going to be
Got it.
added.
Got it.
Probably should do the staging to show, but I'm kind of lazy, admittedly. And they are committed. Git log. Show us there. And now I'm going to pull it back to GitHub. And there it is. So now I want to get this actually back to the Joomla platform, the main repository that's going to be used for releases. I can issue a pull request, call it in GitHub, and it shows me what commits are part of this pull request, what files have been changed. I can give it a title, some description, and I could send it off. I won't because I'm probably going to anger some people if I make this pull request. But that's basically what's involved in a pull request. I recommend not working in master all the time. I recommend a branch. As you can see, I got a whole number of them, 9 right now here, which interestingly are not on my local machine right now. Because if I look at it, git branch, this is master. I want to have like, my JBrowser branch. I want to work on that too. So I have to push it. So I already have the information on my computer because I fetched the entire repository, but it isn't integrated in my local index. So to do that, I'm going to say git branch, how was it called again? JBrowser, and tell it to use it from origin JBrowser. So I said git branch, JBrowser is the local name I want to use, could be whatever I want. Origin is the remote, and JBrowser is the name of the branch in that remote repository. So now I can say git branch, sure, and now to switch to a branch, I want to use checkout, and there it is. Any questions?
I have one. Now that you've cloned it, you've brought it down, and somebody else makes commits on the master, how do you get those then down to update?
Since your fork, your GitHub fork of the platform has a relation, it still knows it's a fork of the main Joomla platform, but it doesn't actually has any real connection to it. So I go to the page of the main repository, Joomla/Joomla platform, and since I'm not a committer on the Joomla platform, I only have read-only URLs here. One is for the Git protocol, the other one is HTTP. I like to use HTTP, and I add another remote for it. So git remote add, I usually call it upstream, and I pass the URL, and I got a new remote. So now I have to bring this remote.
Slow down just a minute.
Sure.
I don't type as fast as you do. And then they disappear.
So now I have to bring this repository down to my computer too. To do so, I can use the git tag command. The remote's name.
So you'll just continuously fetch and merge over time to
Yes.
stay current?
I'm fetching probably, I don't know, dozen times a day if I'm working on Joomla stuff.
Okay.
So now I got it down. It tells me what branches it downloaded, what tags, and now let's make sure I'm on the master bench because I don't think I am. And now I can say git merge, the remote name, upstream, and the bench I want to merge from, master. And sure enough, I got several files I haven't had in my repository. So to merge all those, and looking at git log, yeah, that is it. So now I merge all the changes into JBrowser actually, because I didn't change the branch. And now I can push those upstream again to GitHub. So git push origin JBrowser. So you have to make this, you can fetch once to have it on your local computer, but you have to merge for each and every branch you have. Every branch stands by itself. So looking at my JBrowser branch.
So there's no nice little click team and update to head then?
By clicking anyways not, because we're on the command line.
Obviously.
There's a shorthand for fetch and merge. It's called git pull, P-U-L-L, which just makes a fetch and a pull, and a merge. I usually make them individually because I'm going to merge a dozen on a dozen branches. But there's no reason not to do it in pull. Just a shorthand.
Does pull loop through all the branches?
No, just one at a time still. If I just do it on all my branches, I'll probably get so many conflicts. Because usually a branch is, well, most branches probably exist for quite a time. I have had branches, I don't know, here last updated is back in September, but JBrowser has been in existence for at least 3 months now. And I don't know, it's 45 commits, and there's bound to be some changes of conflict. And if I would do this with all my branches, won't work too well. I can actually see quite well which ones haven't been merged up. 138 behind, 145 behind. Those haven't been merged in quite some time. This one hasn't. This one I just updated, so you can see this one nicely in the GitHub homepage. Now, Eden usually does some cool stuff with the platform too, and sometimes I just want to work on stuff sheeted or help her out. So I can just add another. How do I get to Eden? I use to search. Or maybe not. Okay, let's just use Michael. Let's do. Okay, so I go to his fork of the Joomla platform. Again, I'm going to look for the URL. And I add another remote. Add the name. I can use whatever name I want, I just choose to do the handles because it's easier to remember for me. So now I got another remote, and I'm going to fetch his repository down to mine. I'll become master repo. And here's some interesting branches. I want to walk at the highlighter. So I'm going to say git branch highlighter, and his remote was mbefka, and his branch name is also highlighter, and now I can work on his code. Once I'm through, I'm probably going to push it to GitHub and just issue a pull request against his repository. That works too. Doesn't have to be against the main master repository. I can issue pull requests against any branch from anyone who has forked the platform on Joomla, on GitHub. And then he can integrate this into his branch and later issue a pull request for the main branch. And this way people work quite nice together. You can show this. GitHub has a lot of cool graphs. graphics, and I like this one. Every dot is a commit. This one is from, I don't know, probably a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't say the date. And now the black one is a master repository. And also every line is one branch. There's several more which just haven't had commits in this time frame. It was all of the time. And the only dots shown in those other branches are those who are not in the master repository or any repository above it. So you can see this one is probably one from Andrew. Maybe it's not. This is some branch. And Andrew forked or cloned, or however you want to call it, the branch, made a couple of changes, and
he issued a pull request to Lewis?
yes, and then he issued a push request to Lewis, and he merged it back into his branch. Andrew forked it again, made some more changes, and at the same time Lewis did some changes to his repository. Lewis merged those changes back into his, and made some other changes, and then merged back into the master. And that's the cool thing about GitHub. People are working on the code all the time, and it's really easy compared to SVN to combine them back into one again. That's really the beauty. And thanks to all the graphics, the pull requests, and just the easy access GitHub provides, it does work really well. Dozens of people now have contributed code to the platform through GitHub, and it's really fun to do.
That's a question. When Andrew branched Lewis's branch, and then issued a pull request, did Andrew's branch then close?
Then what?
Did Andrew's branch of Lewis's branch then disappear?
No.
Because he said he made another branch.
He
another change to the same branch.
Well, he deleted his branch and just made a new one. Maybe
Is that why the
he just merged it up. You can't really tell from this graphic. It could be that he just pulled back the changes and made and work on the same branch again, so it doesn't disappear by itself.
So that could have just been a fetch?
Fetch plus merge.
No, where you're hovering. Could have been a fetch for resume his branch.
You won't see a fetch here. A fetch just moves files between computers. A fetch doesn't change the index at all. To change the index, you have to merge. So this could just be a merge. And you could have merged those two commits back into his branch, continued working, and had Lewis pull again. And usually you issue a pull request, but you don't have to. If I just see some developers work, I want to fetch into my branch and then issue a pull request, I can just do that. I don't have to ask permission. Maybe I have to, depending on the license, but I don't have to by Git. So that works too.
And then so one more thing. Purple line reappears from the master after Lewis's branch was pulled back into master. So what's happening there?
What do you mean?
Lewis's branch across the bottom there.
Yeah.
Pull goes into the master.
Yes.
And then that's then Andretti's branch continuing.
No, Andrew's branch doesn't. Oh, you mean over
Is
here?
that the same branch?
That's standard.
Most likely not.
Right, it's just the same color and the same
Yeah,
place.
and just because the branch isn't used anymore and there aren't as many cars as we had Git branches in the past, so GitHub just recycles the color after a while. Actually, this one is from Amy, so I doubt it's going to be the same branch.
No, no.
Yeah. And you can go way back into the past here and see how people work, and you have to go way back down to see some other people. There I am, there's Lewis, Rob, Hannes, Michael, and we have lots and lots of branches at any given time. So you can look at all those, look at the code they have done, it's all open, there's nothing hidden away usually. Well, as soon as on GitHub, it isn't hidden away, and you can just see what people are working on, and it's really, really neat.
What are the flags that are at the end of each of those branches? The
black that's the branch name.
Yeah, that.
So this one was called search, this one is commerce, Postgres SQL. Yeah. Let's go back to our Git repository. I'll show you some more commands. Still on the platform, so I'm going to use that one. And I'm going to make, actually I'm going to go back to the master branch so I don't screw up my branch really bad. Oh, I am, okay. So that is another file. And more cute stuff. So we've seen just git status, shows me what files have been changed and what state they're in. It actually tells you on which branch you are to. So you can see, don't accidentally commit stuff in the wrong branch or something. And now I want to see the code has changed without looking at all the different files. You can use git diff. So here I see the different files. Just one file in this case, and the changes. It does look like very similar to the normal SVN patch, but it's actually different. You can also do just patch and diff like we would do in our SVN workflow, but the patch format is actually different. You can't just take a normal git patch and patch it on an SVN repo and commit. The patch format is actually different. The other way around works, this way doesn't. Neat thing about patches on Git is actually that they contain the information who authored the patch. So in the version log, actually your name will appear in addition to the committer. Can't hardly show that right now, but it isn't easy to really use that much because usually people just fork and issue pull requests. But if you work with patches, the people actually who do the work actually get credited. So this is easy to review stuff. Let's get to some of the cooler commands. One thing many people do is, most of you probably do, develop extensions and want to pack them up and put them on their homepage. And that's really easy in Git. Just going to copy and paste this really quick because I don't want time. Git archive creates automatically archives from your Git revision, repository, tag, whatever you want. In this case, head, so the most current revision. The format, zip and tar are supported, and the file I want, hit enter.
You don't need a tag with it?
I could, instead of head, use a tag, but I don't have to. So in this case, I also use I could, instead of head, say 1.0, but use the 1.0 tag. And if I now go back to my folder, there it is. And that contains the entire head revision without the hidden files that you don't really want to ship out to your customers. So that's kind of cool. The other thing, I already fetched my Pils repository, and let's look at this highlighter branch, since I already got that one. Okay, let's see what kind of changes he got. I'm going to find a change he actually made.
Sorry, back on your previous example. What do you do about managing the manifest file when you're creating your archive?
Just another file in the repository.
You just drag it up to the...
You mean if you have
admin inside.
multiple... Wait, this depends on how you build your repository. Like if I look at my... Let's do that first. My helpdesk component, which I haven't been working on very well, so it's way in the bottom. And I just get the manifest file over here, if you mean that one. And I have an admin media side folder, and I just archive those, push them up to my home page, and I'm through. Now, if you have a manifest or a component that requires multiple, one extension is working a component, a module, a plugin, and so on, and you have to have those all zipped up, and another zip to contain all those zips files. That doesn't work with Git archive. It just takes your entire repository and makes one archive out of it. So if you have more complex extensions that require those things, you still have to do it old-fashioned way.
If you're working, say you're working on that help desk now,
Yes.
in your development tree, you've got a full Joomla installation. You have to see how you check out the admin into administrative components, and then the site into components, help desk. Can you check out the manifest file into a folder which is already checked out somewhere else?
Not really. I usually,
Soft link them?
I'm sorry?
You soft link them?
I either soft link them or I just copy all the files. I know people who have entire Joomla installations in the repositories. but I don't really like because it's then harder to pack up the extension to ship out. And actually it's a lot of clutter because you have to update Joomla all the time, you have to commit those changes back to GitHub, and you have to manage that stuff, and all your people contributing have to always clone the entire Joomla CMS, which I don't think really makes sense, but it is easier to work on because you can just have this one folder you commit to and don't have to, I don't know, drag and drop files and whatever you need to do. Okay, I'm still looking for a change he actually made that I can use. Okay, probably should have looked before. Actually, okay, this one should work. No, it doesn't work. Let's just look at a pull request. Now, the number just made a pull request that contains 3 commits, and so I'm going to add a remote for his repository too. Fetch this one. Fetch. So, going back to his pull request, he made 3 commits in his pull request. Now I just want them all in my branch, I can just merge it up. But what if I only want this one and not the other one? Then I'm in kind of trouble. And Git has got a really neat solution for it. It's called cherry pick. I have to see which one is older. Okay, this one is probably the older one, so it's easier to do. I copy and paste the commits hashtag. I'll also make below up because I don't usually do it. And I can make a new branch first. And now I just have this one commit from this pull request in my branch. So that's a really neat solution if you have, someone has made several changes to your files and you like some of them, you don't like all of them, so you can just cherry pick what you want. Another cool thing that I really, really like, not so much for Joomla, but if you're also writing like C programs or actually Joomla, if you want to debug stuff. And now it worked in 1.0, and it didn't work anymore in 1.2. I got everything neatly tag up. I can use git bisect. So I actually have to figure out how to use it, the Joomla repository because it needs the commit numbers. So I now, it still worked in 11.1. So I can say git bisect good 11.1.
Spelling.
Fine. Ah, thanks. Yeah. Oh, okay, never mind. Git bisect start. Left that out. Sorry. Okay, now I can say good was 11.1, bad is head. So it doesn't work anymore in the current repository. I don't know when it started breaking. It just doesn't work anymore, but I remember it used to work in 11.1. So I say this one. Okay, I got files that are still uncommitted, so I'm going to get rid of those. Okay. And now, git bisect is going to present me a commit from pretty much the middle, and I can say git bisect bad or git bisect good, and it helps me eliminate which commit was actually at fault in the issue. And I can just go on and honor this. It actually estimates how long it would probably take, in this case 6 steps, until you have the commit you want it to be. And let's just continue with this. Okay, so now I got which commit number was at fault, and I can just use git show, and probably should write end you an email that this code broke Joomla. And that's all I want to know. So it's really, really helpful if you want to debug stuff and have no idea where the bug came from, and you're not able to help to fix it, but at least you can find out who did it and send them an angry email, fix your code.
Couldn't send it to a nicer guy.
I think that's the most important commands about Git to know. Questions?
Do you have to end bisect? Or does it just keep looping until it's done?
It loops, you can abort it, but it usually just loops until you're through. And if I'm going to look at my branches right now, it actually tells me I'm off my usual branches. If it moves this. Can you read that? I don't think you can. So I'm off my usual branches. I'm not in any of my branches anymore. And in the background, Git created a branch for which it works. And to get back to your usual repository, you have to say git bisect reset. And now I'm off. The whole bisect run I'm where I was before I started bisecting. That's a good question. Any more questions? Or I have to get creative.
This, my deployment challenge isn't really like deploying code, developer code, although there will be developers checking stuff in and out. I'm evaluating Git for an enterprise deployment where we want to move some stuff out of live, and there are multiple Joomla instances that are live, and then staging needs to be different versions of these different Joomla instances, and sometimes real developers will actually be deploying stuff like this, but then some are internal people who are very GUI oriented, working on Macs with all the templates and doing content, are really the key users. And what I'm trying to figure out from this is, if I went pack up a whole deployment rather than the actual code base, like this is a little more code base oriented, I would say.
That's source control, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if this is really the appropriate tool for these.
At first, there's a really nice Mac tool actually from GitHub, which I unfortunately can't show because it requires a 64-bit computer, which my laptop isn't.
I've got it on here and I was playing with it, trying to do some of these things
okay.
on it. And it has a little button you can hit
Yes,
that'll
it has
update
really
branch
nice
and
button, really nice
sync.
graphics. I have it on my computer too. I use this mostly for the timelines because it's just prettier to read in, on a real GUI instead of the command line. So that works nicely with GUI tools. But what you were trying to do requires database involvement. So if you're trying to have your live site managed by Git, it can track database changes. It's wonderful for file changes. If you have a file-based system, it works wonderfully.
I mean, right now I have to export the whole DB and then import it in the staging environment.
But you could, in theory, have your database files, the files MySQL or something, using the backup in the Git repository too. But I don't think I would try that, because if users write on the database and you don't commit the changes, they're not in the repository. And they may get out of sync with what your files represent. So I wouldn't really want to try that.
You need to be able to just archive. In other words, would it be sufficient to just keep doing the trigger a keep of backups? You push a button and it does a backup, or do you need to combine things?
And you need a whole staging environment where they can try their changes, move them over, try them before they go live.
How do you manage going from
check
development
in and
to
out.
test to live?
I usually have my development side in a separate subdomain and just change the domain under it.
And then when you're ready to go live, reclone, apply the changes to the new clone, it still works. Then,
But I don't use Git if I'm working on sites. I use Git only for code I'm working on for extensions. if I have a site set up that's currently running and I want to make some manual notifications, migrate to new streamer version, I just clone the entire site, clone the database too, and set up a new subdomain, a new folder on the live server, work on it, and when I'm through, I'm switching out the domain names. So the normal www domain points to the new folder. So it's kind of tricky if your site is live and kind of interactive with people registering and so. You have to migrate those database changes, but it gives you a nice, safe working environment, and at the end, I just flip the switch.
But you got in your situation where you have developers working on several extensions or something, you could do a mixture of Git and cloning, where you basically use Git for managing the files, and then when you're ready to go live, you reclone the database, and then apply the Git changes to the new cloned version. If that still works, then apply the Git changes to the live set.
I got a few more, so not as often used, but kind of nice things I can show you. I'm still in Juno platform, so I'm going to change a couple of files now. Let's see, let's start with the README, which is, by the way, in Markdown, which I think GitHub invented, and it's kind of like MediaWiki syntax, but different. Juno rocks. And change the build XML again. I really don't like the 1.0, so let's say 1.5 again. And now I add those again. Git add. Okay, so I'm there. And now I can say git commit interactive. And it's now querying me for every file whether I actually want them or if I don't want them. So if I got a whole bunch of files and I realize I want to keep them staged, but I don't want to commit all of them, that's what I can use.
So it just loops through.
Yes, it loops through them. Actually, it's kind of complicated, but it works interactively. I can just pick files, it doesn't loop through them directly. But it's really nice if you have really big changes and you have some stage and you need to keep them staged because it's switching in and out branches. But you don't want to commit all of them right now. That's what it's for. And yeah. So now I just shows all, I just quit, so the default behavior is to keep all of them, and I can just commit as usual. So that's one. Another one, we were talking about how the branches go out and back in. You can visualize those actually with Git. That's git log graph, and I can see where stuff was branched off and how it gets back there. Here's merge pull request from Amy Steven, patch 3, which is very descriptive, and here you can see a commit, and they probably get wider and wider with the platform because there's so many people contributing, but you can actually follow how the code flows. Not as nice as in GitHub. I would definitely prefer to use GitHub because it just looks better, it's easier to see. But if you really have to, like if you're on the plane and want to find something out, you can. And it actually helps understand, I think. I'm running out of stuff to tell you guys.
All right, we're running out of ways to absorb it.
Do people put much in the way of documentation up on there, or only the code? Like if you need a flow chart, it really helps, you could put it up there.
Sure. I mean, Git can track basically anything. You can usually track text-based stuff because merging and diffing actually works with those, but you can track binary files too. If you merge, you can just not really merge, you have to choose one or the other. That's the disadvantage with binary files. But you can definitely track them. The Joomla platform has a couple of pictures, and it shows nicely if you commit a picture, both the old and the new ones, you can see the differences. But the advantages really come to shine if you're tracking text files.
What is that one thing? The total Git does exist. So Oh, no, there's a GUI interface for Windows.
Which one?
Tortoise
Oh,
exists,
yes.
and NetBeans 7.1 will have Git edit, and I'm sure Eclipse has Git.
Eclipse does. Eclipse has a Git program.
So basically, if you don't want to use command line tools,
Yeah.
there are WYSIWYG and GUI tools for doing this.
I put the Git into Eclipse, but I couldn't see. I could download things, but then I couldn't figure out what I did after I downloaded it. It didn't seem to
Yeah, because you
have anything else
But
other
you
than
have
apply
git files
tab.
on the Joomla CMS, so you should be able to push back there. But
Yeah.
if you really want one of your own fork, and I don't use the clips, so I'm kind of at a disadvantage here. But you should be able to push back to your own forks and to your own repositories and just GitHub.
Right. It looks like it's going to be a combination of the two of them. That I can get it into Eclipse using the Git repository. You can apply patches there, but that's all it gives you.
And you don't have to, although if you have write access to other repositories. For example, I have on Final Integration, we have a shared repository that I work on, and I can just push back there. I don't have to push to my own branches or my own clones. So that works too. You saw if I write git push, I always wrote origin, and instead of origin, I could also write, I don't know, Finder, for example, if I have the remote set up that way. I just need to have the write access. And GitHub has not very hard, but actually really nice ACL, where I can add people as collaborators on my repositories. Or if you have a larger organization or more people working, you can just add, what do they actually call it? I don't really know. They changed the web page a couple of days ago, so I'm still looking for some stuff. I should be able to change it to the Finder working group somehow, which I can't right now. Yeah, just go there. And I can set here admin. And you can add your team members and choose what they are able to do, create groups, and yeah, works kind of well. I really like it. Any more questions? I have one other stuff to tell you guys. Actually, one more command I could show you. Which is the most dangerous command. There are actually ways to screw up your Git repository beyond repair. I've done it, Eden has done it, we've all done it when we started playing with it. And the way to do it is usually to use git rebase. Rebase allows you to change the past, which is kind of cool, but really dangerous. Just as in real life, if you could. The most common thing to do with it, let me first get in my JBrowser branch, is to combine past, I want to read that again. Yeah. Is to combine all the commits you have into one big one. Because if you have looked at the commit history for the Joomla platform, there are many, many commits, very small ones, but often the same person 20 after it. So if I change 20 times one line, each one a commit, I get 20 commits in my timeline at the end, which isn't a really big problem, but doesn't look as nice. And to get around, I can use git rebase -i for interactive, and I have to say what I want to as a base. In this case, my master branch. Takes a second. And I get a list of all the commits between the master branch and the current working branch, in this case, JBrowser. And there's actually a really nice explanation here what happens with the different keywords. Pick just means keep it as is, just going to be kept. Now I could remove a commit by just deleting it. But now save will just be gone. The hashtags are actually rewritten. They don't stay the same. If I rebase, they change. It makes it really dangerous to do this on a public repository. If I have my my headless extension, if I rebase it in whatever significant way, and somebody has forked it before, made some changes, also into a pull request, I will get all my changes duplicates. And this is basically breaking my repository then. If I merge this fork, I'm going to be, I don't know, spending a couple of days to fix my repository. which I really don't want to do. So what I usually use is squash or fix up. So if I now change all these to squash, let's do squash. Probably not going to be all, but not the first one, by the way. The first one you want to keep. Okay, that'll be that way. Save, and I get could not apply. Get the stuff I had so far on GitHub. Error. After the next pants. Get. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. I just skip that one because I don't know what's wrong. But the idea is you can squash these, and you get all the commit messages listed, and you can choose and edit the commit message, and they're all going to be squashed into one commit with the commit message you want. So you can change the past. You can make it one commit, you can change the auto information, you can remove commits. It's really powerful. But
even with squash, do you mess up your hashtags?
Yes.
Okay.
You will always
So only do it in your own world.
Yes. I generally don't recommend it to use it once you have pushed to GitHub. Don't do and change if you have pushed to GitHub. I sometimes do, but only when I'm pretty sure nobody has forked it yet. Once somebody has forked it, don't do it. The platform project a couple of months back actually rebased the entire repository to change the auto informations, and all dozens of forks was becoming useless. Then everybody else had to rebase the same way, with the same set of commands, so we could merge again. I actually lost several patches in that progress because I just screwed it up and I couldn't recover my code, and that really sucked. So be really, really careful with this command. It's really powerful and really dangerous.
Can you lock down the ability to rebase so it doesn't happen? No.
Doesn't work. Good. If nobody has questions anymore, I can. One thing maybe, if you want to host, you can use GitHub, which is free for public repositories. If you actually want to hide your code because you're working on commercial extensions, which you don't want everybody to see the codes, or not unless they're paid, you can use Bitbucket, which is usually built on Mercurial, but they just add Git support, and they have free private repositories. And if you really like Google, you can also use Google Code, which also supports Git. So we have a wide number of choices. And if you need more help with Git, then we got a slide for that. Okay. The GitHub help is really easy to understand. It's short paragraphs, the easiest commands to get started. It's the ideal help, I think. Git ref is much more detailed. It goes more in depth. ProGit is a definitive resource if you really want to learn Git, which explains the background, it explains the internal workings more. And gitscm.com is the official site from Git. So those are the 4 URLs I recommend. Good. Guess we can all join the template makers now.
There's only 1 or 2 versions working on Facebook.
Where's your home?
Rouven.
Distant relative that worked in the Lines County.
Are all the serious developers using Macs? Am I still the only guy?
Well, I think, especially in the Rouven community, Macs are really popular. I mean, I've seen so many
Never
Macs
felt
this
so
weekend.
comfortable in my life.
Yeah.
This is usually I'm the only one.
As you've probably seen, I like the command line. And the nice thing about a Mac is I can get all the visual tools I want, like Photoshop, and so you have a complete Unix command line. And that's something Windows doesn't give me.
I didn't get that last.
The command line?
In
It's a-
Photoshop?
No, in Windows.
Right. He can have both Photoshop and a command line.
A really nice
Basically
one.
have DOS and Windows at the same time.
Yeah, right. So he can get, it'll run Photoshop
I mean,
really
Windows
great,
has a
but he can
command line
also go to
too,
the.
but just
Well,
not.
why can't I get it at the same time? I can run Photoshop
And you can do a command line.
But you have a command line too, that's not a Unix one. I mean,
Yeah.
it works.
I don't really have Unix.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And I get just the same commands on Linux, which usually are a bit better, in my opinion, than also on Windows. I'm more familiar with them to start with.
Okay,
And actually, to use Git, you have to use a different command line because you have to use the Git bash.
right.
And I don't really want to do that.
Oh, I see. You're not using the Git bash. You're just,
I'm using
Right.
another command line.
Right.
got it. All right. Yeah,
So that's kind of neat.
okay. Not that I have anything against Macs. They just cost more, that's all.
Yeah. Mine is 5 years old now, so it paid for itself, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I was in the Mac store last week and I spent $2,000. This computer I've been using for a year. It's $400.
Yeah, but I have a friend of mine who's a lawyer who's constantly complaining to me that he goes through laptops because they don't last.
They use the same part. I mean, really. I mean,
Yeah.
the drives are the same, the memory chips are
Sure.
the same. I mean,
But it's usually a bit more high quality if you buy a Lenovo or a ThinkPad.
yeah,
It's,
Lenovo's are the best.
Yes, I really like those.
Yeah.
But if I had a Windows
They're the
laptop,
most
it would be a
rugged,
Lenovo.
they're
Definitively.
the engineered. Yeah, Lenovo's are better.
Got my mom on because it's just, they just work, they're pretty good durable. Although I had dropped it and it still works.
Yeah.
Dropped mine too, still works too.
Yeah, we all drop them.
So, but I actually need a new one because this one is getting kind of broken. Battery is just that battery, and just doesn't really work very well anymore.
Yeah.
There's actually one thing I'm afraid about the new Macs is the integrated battery because I'm on my third one in 5 years, and I don't really want to open up my Mac.
Well, it's only taking the back panel off. I only leave a hard drive in a year at a time. I replace the hard drive every year.
Okay.
Just, I don't trust them. And they're cheap, so I clone the hard drive, leave it
Yeah.
as a backup and
Files go back.
get
go
more
down to
space,
fast.
get more space.
Yeah. Do you see any research, Andrea? Do you see anything?
I'm all set on that, yeah. I'm just
Yeah, just wanted
combining
to
a few
update
things and
you.
writing down a few last notes, so that's all
But,
right. Yeah.
but you still need the history.
Oh, you know what would be really helpful is if you can grab that history and put it someplace just because what are all the little...
I got myself an outline I used to reference the comments so I don't forget any. I can probably write that up nicely and put on the Luna.
That would probably be very helpful. Yeah. That'd probably be better than...
Yeah.
I have to add some explanation to it because I just have a list of commands so I don't forget them. But I can add some explanation.
But that would be
on
great. Yeah, that
Sure.
would be great.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, I keep saying what I just have to
Just
get
have to
in there and
started.
do. But it gets so frustrating when I've got something I need to get done and I just need to update it and it's not there. But and we're still streaming live. I could probably end the streaming live.
Yeah,
here.
I guess so.
It's nice to see all of you guys there. But the session is over. So, okay. End of session.
I actually got my cord.
Well, I'm just afraid. I want to make sure that it gets recorded. So.
Or it would impact all. Geneva? Hi, Rouven here. My mom tried to call me and now she doesn't answer her phone. Hallo? Geneva? Ja, hi. Du hast angerufen. Du hast angerufen. Aha, wie hilfreich. Ja, wenn ich 20 Mal versucht, sie zurückzurufen, dann keinen von euch erreicht, dann habe ich schon gewundert. Okay. Nee, du hast gerade während meines Vortrages angerufen. Du hast gerade während meines Vortrages angerufen. Okay, geh mal abklemmen damit. Nee, nicht, dass ich jetzt mich gerade erinnern könnte.
I like this. I'm putting this go.
I almost just hit the stop, but I thought,
Ja,
maybe
gut.
Rowan asked
Jetzt
me.
kann man
Yeah,
mal
so the best way to do it is
geplant, aber ist okay.
I mean,
But I want to try this for some other stuff. Now that you've shown it to me.
Und jetzt ist hier noch
See you.
Abschluss und
just stop
Hallo?
it.